How you doing out there? Talking chicken today. No, not fried, but it does sound good. No, staying in kind of the realm I want to go a little bit more with my channel, talking about self-reliance, doing things for yourself. My wife raises chickens, and I'm not going to talk so much about raising chickens, but you know, that's part of being self-reliant. You know, uh, finding ways to produce your own food, whether it's garden or raising livestock or something. We've had an issue with her using quite a bit of food lately on her chickens, and I've been watching a couple of videos. There's a guy named Rob Bob, and I'm pretty sure he's from Australia. He's got a pretty good channel on making an automatic feeder. Well, he's got a video on making an automatic feeder. And he points back to another gentleman, and I hate to say I cannot think of his name off the top of my head, but he has, Rob has some pretty good videos on making an automatic feeder. And while watching that, I found a video by a gentleman named, from the channel J&J Acres. And he took what Rob did and, you know, tweaked it a little bit. So I'm going to kind of, without yapping too much, I'm going to try making one of these, and want to tip my hat to those guys for showing me how to do this, you know, through their videos. I probably won't go into as much detail as they did. I'll show you a little bit of what I've done along the way. I'll have a link to J&J Acres that built one out of the same type trash can that I'm doing, and also to Rob Bob. And anyway, what you use is a container of some sort. Some use 5-gallon buckets, some use a trash can. I've seen them using the plastic buckets that like Tidy Cat comes in. My wife wanted one large enough that she could put a whole bag or more in and not have to worry about it. And then you're using fittings, PVC fittings. And I'll show you how this all goes together in a little bit, but you have to notch out one section of the PVC fitting. I'm using 3-inch. Anyway, I notched out my first one, and then I used it to line up and mark the second one, and I just put the notches. I'm going to cut this out, and I'll get back with you and we'll further this along without me yapping too much. Okay, I have both of the PVC elbows notched out. Now, I was saying that it's not rocket science and it doesn't have to be exact. You know, I'm not going to get into measurements so much and stuff like that. But the things that you do want is this notch, give or take an inch or so, maybe a little bit more in height. You do want that, and like I said, it's guesswork. It doesn't have to be exact. And you want to remove about 2/3 of your lip here, and leaving about 1/3. That gives it a base to stand on, and plenty of room for the feed to drop in for the chickens to eat. That you want to pretty much stay with. Got one of my holes done. Okay, I'm going to go through this a little bit on how I did this. I'm not going to beat a horse. As I said, you've got some good videos over there. They show you a lot more detail at J&J Acres and Rob Bob. What I pretty much did, and as you know, I said that measurements aren't that necessary on what I'm doing here. It does come in a little bit more important in this section of the process. In one of the videos, they measured out precisely the distance that they cut, and then they measured a further so they would know where to cut on their bucket to make sure they had a good tight fit. Me, I'm more haphazard than that. I kind of guessed, put a little mark on the side of the bucket about the depth that I cut the elbow, and then I took the elbow and I measured the distance, and I knew that it was 5 inches. I knew that this part of the elbow was 3 inches, so 1.5 inch was center. So I knew from my bottom, taking into account for the dip in the bottom of the trash can, the total height would be 5 inches. I came down 1.5 inches from that height, kind of compared that. I came up, I measured from here up to my center, which is about 2.5 inches. So I measured that out. It all lined up. I found a spot on my bucket that I was using. This has ribs, so I had to align it to where it took out 2 ribs. But also on the inside, there were indentations, so I had to take into account those. So I had to lay it off to one side. And as I said, you want to take into account this dip in the trash can or the bucket, whatever you're using. So anyway, as I said, I just took into account the measurement from the bottom. I put a mark on either side. I took a measurement from the bottom up 5 inches, 2.5, and come down 1.5 inches. I was right on. I centered it. I used my hole saw to drill that out. J&J Acres made a good point. If you buy a hole saw, make sure that it is the same size as the piece of PVC you're using. Even though this one is a 3-inch piece, the hole saw that I'm actually using is a 3 1/4. The 3-inch would have been too small. I would have had to cut it out. If you're using something like this or a Tidy Cat container or something like that, you could probably do it with a sharp knife. You know, be careful, use all safety procedures, you know, precautions when using a knife. Same thing going with that. As I said, I used a grinder on this. You could have used a hacksaw. I highly suggest, if you aren't familiar with using a grinder, don't use one. A lot of accidents can happen, even cutting a piece of plastic. Play it safe, use a hacksaw. Anyway, I'm going to cut the other hole out and see what we got. I was actually going to go with 5 of these originally. I wanted 5 openings. After bouncing around from Home Improvement Center to Home Improvement Center, I was lucky to find 2 of the ones I wanted. There were some of the others, but that's not going to fit my total plan of what I wanted in the long run. I'll just have to go back and get some more later and add to it. In those other videos, you'll notice they also use different elbows. So, you know, figure out which one you want to use for your final plan. Know what you want to use. If you have to, look it up on the home improvement store beforehand, get an item number, and go in there with that item number. It makes it a lot easier. And they'll try and tell you what you don't want. If you know what you want, you know the item number. If they have it, they have it. If they don't, they don't. You know, go look somewhere else. Anyway, let me get the other one cut and we'll be right back. On this design, you're just inserting them from the inside, just reaching through, putting it through the hole. If you have your holes cut right, it should be a good tight fit. Here, pop in. Okay. Now, you might ask what's going to hold those in place. Okay. Rob Bob showed using a little block of wood, attaching it with a screw to the little flange on the elbow that you left inside. J&J Acres. I may have said JJ earlier. If I did, I'm sorry. I meant J&J Acres. He said or suggested that if it's cut right, it should fit tight. The weight of the food should stay in place. It shouldn't twist and shouldn't turn. Which, this one I've got off just a little bit. It acts like a little bit, so I may have to anchor it. But this one, nice and tight. Okay. I've seen some where they put silicone caulking around the opening, which would help keep out moisture if it's going to be outside or in an uncovered area. And I've seen other ones where they've also not done that because it would be in a covered area, which this one will be. As I said, I'm not really going into too much on the how-to. Go check out the other videos. This is a little bit rougher. If you don't feel confident in attempting something like this and you don't want to, you know, I think I paid a whole $12 for this, and these were like $3 or $4 each. I can't remember. If you don't feel confident, you know, maybe just start with the Tidy Cat or whatever, you know, plastic container of some sort, and work with that. And see how you come out with that before you attempt something like this. You know, if you don't feel confident or don't feel like your hands on enough. But it's actually pretty simple. It's pretty easy. I'm gonna do a couple other mods here. I'll pause and I'll get back after I do them mods. And then the main thing is, what the chicken's going to eat out of it, and is my wife going to save any money on feed? That's what we'll find out later. But anyway, let me do these other mods. Okay. Next modification I made, and still got to clean it up a little bit and everything, but what I did was took an end cap, and I can't remember again, $1.50, $2, whatever, and measured up about 1.5 inches, and I cut off across and then cut this area here out. Okay, so the whole idea is to save feed for the chickens. A couple of the different things that they've talked about is the lip here. If it's smaller, the chickens were still getting the feed out and spreading it all over the ground. So some that were using the female end on the elbows were actually sticking another piece of pipe in it to extend it out. Other ones were using a cap as what I made and put on. The feed would fall in and then would get up to this area here, which would allow the chickens to still eat but not spill it all over the ground. So that's going to go on there. Sorry about this. Sometimes you just got to get into your work. Okay. Now, as I said, that's going to set like that. The grain will fall in just by gravity up to this point. And well, this is a bit of a experiment. I'm not going to cut this cap, and I want to see how much grain we lose out of either side. See, we'll put a pan or something under it and see how much grain we lose and see if this really makes a difference or not. Yes, our next step is setting it up, putting some grain in it. Let's see it happen. All right, well, I've got it all set up. If you'll notice, I got it on a stump there. The stump is to raise it up against where the chickens can feed out of it, more at their own height. And they say there's less chance of them throwing the food all over the place. You can see a couple of them are already kind of interested in there, in the bucket to see what's going on. Hand me the lid, Cindy. She's got a rooster that she's afraid of. She's wielding the lid like a shield and a broom like a sword. Anyway, let's see what happens here. You girls know what this is, don't you? You guys. Pull that out here. Okay, I've got the broom in. It has dropped down in there. Let's put the lid on. I'm sure they're a little curious as to what it is. I think I'm going to grab some grain and throw in and see if they can figure it out. Oh, looky there. Let's see what happens. Well, right now they're eating what's on the ground. See if a couple of them get wise. Come on over here. Come on over here. Yeah, they're taking a little bit, but
There's one more up there. I need to round up.
okay, well, that's fine. Maybe I shouldn't have got so much on the ground. Hopefully, come on, one of you just stick your head in there. Well, we may have to edit a little bit of this to cut out some time until they start feeding. Yeah, not the wisest animals. I can see I'm going to set that more in the corner. Yeah, one rooster just ran the other one out the gate because we didn't have the gate locked. They're fighting over the scraps that's on the ground. They haven't learned yet to... Oh, looky there. Oh! Well, we got one that's learned how to eat. How did these things survive all these years? Without going extinct? Well, I see we're going to have one fat bird. Yeah, there we go.
We figured it out.
As I said, we'll get a couple more holes drilled once I get some more parts and make a few more openings for each of the other birds. I don't see a lot of grain dropping on the ground. This is new, so maybe this is going to work. Maybe this will help in the amount of money we spend on grain in keeping the chickens. Well, thanks for watching, and maybe I'll do an update in a while and let you know how this comes out. Thanks for watching.